Puerto Rico. Esta bomba yo la dedico a toda mi gente de Puerto Rico, a la familia Fontanet, allá en Cupe Alto y Lo Mejía en Vega Baja. ¡Que gocen! ¡Sí!
Bomba, bomba, para siempre.
Bomba, bomba está presente, aquí lo canta mi gente.
Bomba, bomba, para siempre.
Baila, baila. puertorriqueña. Yo te la traigo de Cupey, de Vega Baja y de Santurce, de todas partes de Puerto Rico. Esta bomba yo la dedico a toda mi gente de Puerto Rico, a la familia Fontanet, allá en Cupey Alto y Lo Mejía en Vega Baja. ¡Que gocen! ¡Sí!
Bomba, bomba, para siempre.
Bomba,
Maybe. Wouldn't we both be?
Oh, hello
Hey
there.
guys.
Oh, good.
How you doing?
Sorry, it's been a while. Like I've only been using OBS for Zoom, so. Hello, everyone. Oh my God. So how
Nice,
are you spending
nice.
Halloween, by the way?
I am just checking the audio here, and I do hear us
Oh,
both.
hang on.
You're a little quieter, but
can change that.
I do hear us both. Yeah, crank yours up just a little bit. No, we are in Austin, Nevada.
Yeah.
This is our second weekend here of 3. Well, actually, we only really get 2 weekends because next weekend we're leaving on early Saturday morning to head over to Pensacola for a week. So, but we're in Austin, Nevada now,
Austin,
and
Nevada. Oh,
it's I mean, sorry, I said that to someone else the other day. I like can't not say Austin, Nevada. They're like, are you sure there's an Austin, Nevada? I was like, there's absolutely an Austin, Nevada. I was like, I've been there. I've eaten at the restaurant and had the milkshakes. So,
oh my God, yeah.
yeah, but no, Austin, Texas, and we had actually kind of a fun day today. A little bit of a chill morning. Got one of our videos out for our YouTube channel, and then headed out had a brunch in downtown Austin at kind of a well recommended breakfast place, which was pretty good, and then took some Lime scooters around and went over to see the Capitol. The weirdly thing about Austin is the Capitol building is like the #1 rated attraction to see on TripAdvisor. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's a big domed Capitol building like you normally see. I guess it's cool. And there's statues, but you can go into the rotunda. Maybe it's special because you can go into pretty much the entire thing. Like you can just walk around it on the weekends and nobody seems to care. You got to go through metal detectors and stuff to go through, but they weren't even requiring masks. They were heavily suggested, but none of the security guards are wearing masks. So, yeah, but no, anyway, yeah, we did that. And then we drove over to a place called Barton Springs, which is an actual spring that kind of feeds into a creek, but they've blocked it off. The creek, there's a dam on one end and basically a dam on the other, and it's basically a swimming pool, like a natural river like swimming pool that's blocked off. And there's a diving board, there's lifeguards, there's built up around the edge, and it's been like that for probably, I think, like 100 and it was about 140 years ago they started actually doing stuff to it, and then like back in the early 1900s when it was like 1920s or 30s when it was donated to Austin basically by this one guy who developed the whole thing. And it's been like that ever since. In fact, one of these mornings, because it opens at 5 a.m. But one of these mornings before like getting started with work and stuff, we might go over there because we didn't really know about it till today.
Until what?
Swim. It's actually till today. So but yeah, we might actually go out there and go for a swim. It's actually free up until 8 o'clock when the lifeguards get there, and then it's I think $5 to get in or something, which is nothing. So yeah, and then we went and got our weekly groceries at the first Whole Foods ever. Did you know Whole Foods started in Austin, Nevada? Sorry, Texas.
I'd be like, wow,
Austin,
that's a
Texas?
big thing. That'll probably be the only thing Austin, Nevada would be known for.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, Austin, Texas. So that's where Whole Foods started. But we're here because another culturally significant event. We went to the Formula One race in Austin, which is only about 6 miles south of where we're at here in East Austin. We're at an RV park called Astonia, which is a pretty cool place. And we went down there, and it was a massive sea of humanity. A lot of people from other countries came in, flew in specially just for the race, and it was pretty phenomenal experience.
Before I forget, it's a long story. I'm not seeing this on my end, like on my chat little window, but in very, very tiny type, someone says, Mark something. How has the drought affected your work?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't see any comments on the Facebook, so that must be coming in through YouTube or one of the other spots.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Well, I mean, hasn't affected me any. I don't really do that much work in the field much anymore. We had the one big project over the summer. We're out there in Nevada, northeastern Nevada, and we're doing it again next year. The final phase of it.
Oh.
But it's it's not really affecting Nevada, but I don't know how it's affecting your work in California. Probably giving you more work with the
Definitely.
drought, probably causing more fires.
Well, that too, but also the fact that it's
Yeah.
not. It's supposed to be like, I always forget. Like La Nina either means it doesn't snow a lot or it just rains a lot more. You know, basically.
Sure.
Yeah. So my field season can go on a lot longer. Like what was it? I just got back from South Lake Tahoe, and normally that's like that's obviously a ski place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, my God, it was interesting. I was in South Lake Tahoe and I was reading about it. Like, I did not realize a lot of those ski runs were built through sites.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Yeah, like they were that's
Yeah.
where Virginia City? Yeah, Virginia City got its lumber from, basically.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Yep. So
Anything interesting. So how are you finding, you still enjoying the RV life? I mean, how long has it been?
man, it's been something like 18 months or so,
Wow.
I guess, or 15 months, maybe 16 months or so, I guess. Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's going well. And in fact, this will be the first time anybody's ever heard about this publicly, but I don't know who's going to watch this live stream, so I'm not too concerned with it. But we are, we've been doing a kind of half-ass series of videos on YouTube, just a travel log kind of thing, but we're formalizing it a little more starting soon here into more of a longer form structured format. It's going to be about an hour long every week, but include different segments that we're recording and then us talking about where we are, different segments, and then we're ripping all the audio off of that and releasing it as a podcast as well. So so we're gonna, I think we were gonna start that around January, but I think we're gonna start it here up pretty soon, probably like maybe within the next month or so. Get some stuff out. So because it really was just coming up with a plan for how we wanted to structure it and how we want to do it, but more to come on that later. But we're really enjoying it, and we're going to be back in Charlotte, North Carolina for a couple months of the end of 2021, and then back over to the Southwest and the West Coast in January. So
wait, we're in the Southwest. Like, are you gonna, like, I guess, does that thing in Quartzsite happen at that time of the year, or does it happen someplace time else?
So it does, and my intent for the last like 10 months has been to go to Quartzsite in the mid to end of January. But the more I find out about Quartzsite, the more it seems like we're probably not going to go. What we are going to go to, there's a group of RVers within like the Family Motor Coach Association called the Escapers. And within the Escapers is the Escapees. It's like a subgroup within there. And the Escapees is like a working, it's a group of people who still work full-time. They RV full-time as well. It doesn't matter what your age is, but if you're still a working full-time person, then, this is the group for you. And they have all these RV things are called convergences, when they just like, they all come together. They don't call them conferences or anything. They call them a convergence. So we're going to the one that I think is in, I want to say Palm Springs or something like. Is Palm Springs in Arizona? I don't know.
Oh no, that's in California.
Well, it's south of Quartzsite. It's down somewhere, and it starts on like January 8th, and I can't exactly remember where it's at, but it's for like 8 days, and it's a whole thing with presentations and just like parties and get-togethers and meeting people. And cool thing is, with our whole solar setup on the RV now, I got to choose which kind of lot we wanted to be in. There was the party all hours of the night lot. I was like, not so sure about that one. And then there was the one where the solar lot, where generators are only allowed for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, but otherwise it's quiet because you're not plugged into anything, so you don't need it because there's no services at any of these sites. So people with generators are probably going to be running them all the time if they don't have solar. So but I know, but it's going to be fun, and I think we're going to skip Quartzsite because most of the people are saying you kind of do Quartzsite once, but then you realize you don't really want to do it ever again. It's too many people. It's a lot of older people, to be honest. And it's just, it's like find your crowd. And I think this crowd is going to be more adequate. Now this whole thing we're going to happens before Quartzsite. So if it turns out there's some people going, or we want to go and we want to kind of slam it in at the last minute, then maybe we'll do that. Because my my work situation is changing, and I'm pretty much taking January off. So we're going to be able to kind of make our decisions and do whatever we want, which will be cool.
Cool. So that is so. Oh, so you still are changing. So you're still changing your work situation in December. Good for you.
Yep, and it's official. It's official now as of this week. I'm going to be going independent with the company I'm working for, and doing some services that they're not providing, and I have their support to do it. So it's now I've got to get the clients and get a contract signed. That's the only real, stumbling block here. Once that happens, it's all real.
Cool.
So but yeah, it's going to provide me a lot more freedom and a lot more ability to keep working, but do stuff on really our own schedule. So
by the way, your
cool.
like formalization of your YouTube channel reminds me of that. I'm also like, I got that camper shell. I've been trying to like film a video series on like overlanding / van life. Even though technically I'm not doing either of those, but oh my god, it's like I've been on a crazy schedule. Like the person who I normally deal with in my at the place where I work was like, aren't you like was worried about me burning out? And I'm like, well, winter's coming. I want to put away as many I want to like squirrel away as much as I can before winter formally hits.
Yeah.
So even though
I hear that,
I was noticing that like some of my videos, like I've been trying to shoot finish the same video for like the past month, but every time I shoot it and look at it, I'm like, wow, I look so tired and I sound so tired. And like last week was the first time I did a take where I didn't sound tired, but I'm only a third of the way through. So everyone, don't worry. Like there's like I've got oh my god, I've got so much footage. I just need to find the time to edit.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. And I think I talked about this on one of the Sierra Mark podcasts a while back, but one thing and it's taken a little while to get some things into place, like the editing, because if I have anything else to do that takes precedence, like I need to extend my time on, it's usually the editing that takes a hit. But that's gonna stop once we formalize this into a little more structured. That's been the thing, is there's been no motivation really to get it out. It's like we don't have that many subscribers and people aren't watching it, but we want to do it for us, and and just get that thing out there, but provide a lot more value too. And once we start doing that, I think I'll take it a little more seriously. But I'll tell you what, for anybody listening to this, I read this book called The 5 a.m. Club back in,
was it May?
Well, I will tell you, it was 163 days ago, because the day after I finished that book, and I finished it on I downloaded a bunch of audiobooks from Audible, and it's a short book. I listened to it on 2X and I finished it in like 3 hours on one of our drives. So the next day I started putting into practice what they were talking about. And I've greatly expanded it too, because it really started out saying, wake up at like 4:40, whatever time you need to get yourself, prepared for the day, go to the bathroom, get a glass of water, whatever you're going to do. And then between 5 and 6, you do, 20 minutes of high intensity exercise, and then 20 minutes of, they say journaling or meditation, something that's like focused on you and just like, self-reflection kind of thing. I do journaling through the Day One app for iPad. And then 20 minutes of learning something. You can watch a documentary. I'm doing Duolingo. I've been doing Spanish pretty consistently because I never did learn Spanish. So I've been doing that. But then I took that concept, and I have a pretty rigid, I'm pretty free to make my own work schedule, but it's got to be within business hours. So I'm pretty rigid about starting at 9 a.m. And I'm not rigid about me starting at 9 a.m. I'm rigid about clients not scheduling appointments before 9 a.m. And the reason is, because I get messages from people that I work with at 6:30, 7 o'clock going, hey, you free? And I'm like, no, I'm doing stuff right now. So I focus on my own things, and I really protect that time frame. So between like 5 a.m., 4:30 to 5 a.m. and about 8:30 or so, because I give myself about a half an hour to kind of just get ready for work. I've expanded out this 5 a.m. club thing to, I start with the 3 original 20s, and then I've got, another 20 minutes to do the APN newsletter, and that's 7 days a week, but once a week. It takes some effort to put this together. It doesn't look like there's a lot to it, but, just doing 20 minutes a day, I'm able to get all the elements of it done by Friday and then get it scheduled. And then I do 20 minutes of content research every day, because I'm doing content research for the Archaeology podcast, Archaeology show, and the CRM Archaeology podcast. And then I do 20 minutes of planning on Culturo, which is on our checklist of things to talk about. And then I do an hour of APN editing, and then I do an hour and 15 minutes or something of video editing, and then I do an hour workout, and then I start my workday.
Oh my God.
So, and that's my morning, right? And the cool thing about going to Central Time, like we did a few weeks ago, is all my clients like shifted to 11 a.m. and I didn't tell anyone I was in Central Time. So I'm willing to work with clients later in the day, but now I've got until 11 a.m. to basically add to my, I've expanded out some of that stuff. Like I'm editing longer, podcast editing longer, and doing a little bit longer workout too. But that's all on my calendar and structured. And when we go to the Eastern time zone in a week, I don't think I want to keep my client on at noon, because that means I'm basically on the hook from noon to 8 or so. And I don't really want to do that, but I'll probably walk it back and keep it at about 11 o'clock. So, but anyway, I highly recommend that kind of structure. You do it however you want, but putting that stuff on your calendar and making a structure for it and doing small chunks at a time, but do them every day of the week, and you can get a lot of stuff done. You know, I remember hearing about this guy who, he wrote like 3 or 4 books a year, and on whatever topic he was passionate about. And he did it because he did it after his kids went to bed, after his wife went to bed. And for like 30 minutes from like 11:30 to midnight, he would just write whatever it was. He would just write, and he would keep that time structured. He wouldn't write more than that. He wouldn't write less than that. He would just write. It allowed him to just put material out that he was happy with, you know. And I think it's all about consistency personally.
Wow, that is super interesting.
So,
I mean, you know, that's one of the reasons I keep thinking I should bring out my laptop when I'm not doing anything particularly vigorous. Let's put it that way. You know, because they're like, you know,
for sure.
There's some jobs where I'm literally just like, you know, reading all day. Although I will admit, I have been doing a lot of like, not like, you know, reading for fun, but like, you know, actual like business reading. Like, you know, I'm still working on that like assessing significance book. And then, you know, because I'm still, I mean, I keep telling people this, and I'm, you know, I am very serious when I say I am still thinking about getting my master's degree at some point. Oh, but before I forget, I was listening to the latest episode of Archaeology, and, you know, that paper made me laugh a little, because it's like, clearly this person has never run into those archaeologists who just like scream about paper all the time on like, you know, those Facebook groups.
The article was a little starry-eyed.
Or maybe it's just written by someone
if you're
young.
watching this in the... It could have been. I tried getting a hold of her to get her on the show, and she wasn't responding in all the normal channels. So, but it was, I guess it was good for people to read thinking that don't know any better, so they could think, oh wow, this is a really emerging and advancing field, and maybe that's encouraging. But you know, hopefully hope that out of it, and they don't look at it skeptically.
Well, I mean,
of course, then Paul and I did.
Well, yeah, so did I. Especially considering last week I met 2 people who, you know, were still carrying around notebooks, like actual notebooks, and like, you know, anytime you would say something, they'd whip out their notebooks and their pencils and they write it down. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah,
But,
totally.
you know, I did want to talk more about that, you know, in a sec, but I was just curious, you know, I put it on our checklist, like, what is Culturo?
Well, so yeah, we haven't talked publicly about this too much.
Are you allowed
but
to?
It's time to start doing it. It's just, it hasn't been by design. It's just, I haven't really had the time. And I want to, before we really start promoting it, I'm fine talking about it, but before we start promoting it, I want to get a few more things down schedule wise. But for a long time, it's really Tristan, our co-founder here, who has been pushing the APN to become more of a media organization involved with all kinds of different things. And I was never in disagreement with that, but I was like, how do we turn the APN into something like that? And we started talking about it again because and it was really because Tristan got in with a company called Dig It over in the UK that wanted us to help produce a podcast series for them And Tristan actually did this. They contracted Tristan to produce this series for them. They recorded everything. He edited it, mastered it,
Yeah.
put it out, and it played on their channels. And I think it played on one of the BBC radio stations as
really?
well. And yeah, I think so. And so that was really cool. I mean, they have this whole TV show thing, and it was like a behind the scenes, you know, on the excavation kind of podcast that they, like I said, they recorded it. They just wanted some help with production and editing and things like that. So we were like, well, that's part of what we want to do, you know, with this whole thing. We want to take this experience and help people produce other podcasts that we have no control over. Like, you know, we'll just help you produce the podcast, you know, whatever fee. And then it's your show, right? We don't need to put it on your show, but we use our skills and abilities and do that, but also getting into video and live events and all kinds of stuff. So we started forming the idea for it probably back in May, and we had to come up with a name that was not going to be recognized by anybody. I see my internet connection is a little unstable.
I still understand you.
that was not going to be recognized by anybody. That was not culturally appropriating anyone. That was not, you know, anything. So Culturo is no language that's real. It's Esperanto for culture.
Oh, really?
And since Esperanto language, we figured that was close enough. But actually, if you go to culturomedia.com, there is a homepage up there, and you can see our new that we had designed.
Oh.
And you can see just a few things about what we want to do on there, and I'm expanding some of that in the back end, and it'll probably go live in December. But let me see, the live stream is timing out here. Let me give it a second.
Oh, really? Because you sound fine on my end, and I'm not showing any drop frames.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, your audio
Well, I'll keep going.
chops
Live
out
stream will
every
probably
once in a
catch
while,
up.
but oh, that's weird. Is it at is it culturo.com or is it something else?
Culturo Media. Culturomedia.com.
Sorry. Trying to look it up and type it one-handed. Yeah.
What we want to do is more podcast networks. That's way down the line. We're going to need people to run those, but we want focused on the other fields of anthropology, right? So like cultural, biolinguistics, you know, get those other fields. I mean, in the United States, we call it a 4-field approach. You know, those 3 plus archaeology make anthropology. And I would love to have those topics in a place to house them. And we're rolling my podcast production company, Chris Webster Productions, into this, so we can basically have a built-in structure for, you know, producing and editing podcasts for people. Again, just on either a one-off or a regular basis, whatever the case may be, but using those abilities to put together. And then live events. Live events is really what we're kicking off right at the start of the year. Actually, probably February, because I'm taking January off. And we're going to have like a monthly keynote that's going to be hosted by myself and Carlton.
Oh, really?
From the Life and Ruins, people in the fields of anthropology, all across anthropology. And we're just going to have like a 35 minute question, you know, interview with them with, you know, about 25 to 30 minutes of question and answer from the audience after that. And we want to start having weekly live podcasts, much like this one. So we'll cycle through all the APN shows that want to do it, and it'll be on a certain date and time when you can just tune into a live show on APN, and that'll be super cool. You know, webinars and all kinds of stuff, and all that should be watch it on the time it happens. And if you're a member of the APN, .com/members, you'll be able to see the back catalog.
Oh, really?
So anything that we've recorded in the past will be available and want to watch. So so that's what we're starting out with, but we wanted to create an organization that would allow us into a number of other things, and that's what we're doing.
Interesting, because you're cool.
So,
interesting. And I know, God, I forget. Do you guys? I feel like you guys are good at Instagram. Am I wrong?
We do. There's not a whole lot of activity on the Instagram because there's nobody managing it. But there's, but yeah, we want to expand this whole organization out, and maybe through some funding or whatever to, include a lot more social media presence, just a lot more outreach and a lot more putting out what we're doing, so people can find it and learn and, just pick up what we're throwing down basically. So, yeah.
All right, hang on. I'm going to try to throw it up on the screen in a second.
While you're doing that, I'm looking at the stats here and we've had 19 3-second video views. I'm like, 3 seconds is all it took for you to click away. That's amazing. I love it.
Ah, there we go. Ha. Alrighty. Oh, so there isn't really a lot there yet.
It's just the one page. I bought the domain and I figured I'm going to put something on it. And if you scroll down, there should be some.
Yeah, hang on. Let's see.
I don't know why.
Oh, there we go.
Visible on your page there.
I think that's working.
Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe it doesn't update live time.
Yeah.
Oh, on my end. Interesting. Well, whatever.
I don't know, but there's definitely 3 paragraphs underneath that when I look on my screen.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it now. It just didn't want to scroll down. Maybe that's a little beyond what OBS can do or something. Anyway, yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that logo, we had that designed. The logo is I wanted a futuristic style font because we're not stuck in the past, and our designer came up with this font for us. And I also wanted some sort of graphical element in there that represented what we were trying to do without culturally appropriating anybody else.
Yeah.
Right. So what that is her abstract stylized image of a strand of DNA.
Oh.
And so it's like DNA binds us all together because we're all humans, and nobody can claim that it's not appropriating anyone's culture because we all share that, of course, and it's not culture related. So
interesting. Oh God, like live streaming conferences. How did that I forgot. Didn't you do a conference?
Oh, yes, that's one of the other things. And I'm not certain that we'll get that running in Q1 of 2022. We might, but we want to start out with quarterly virtual conferences. We're not calling them conferences. We don't have but we are definitely starting with themed knowledge share type events like that we want to do. And it'll probably be, if we get one in Q1, it'll probably be near the end of the quarter, and then we'll just continue that trend, maybe in end of February or something like that. But that's one of the things, because now I've got our speaker list. I think we've got that. Colin and I have that planned out for 2022. We got to get those people booked and scheduled and see if they'll do it. I'm sure they will, but that's the next step. Is I'm putting some materials together so I can start approaching them and then get it on the calendar. It's going to be, I think, the second Monday or the third Monday, I think, of every month. We're going to do that keynote, and and then hopefully the conferences starting in February. But that means I've got 4 conferences to plan. So hey, listening to this is in the culture, wants to volunteer and help us with any of this planning, definitely contact me, Chris at archaeologypodcastnetwork.com or Chris at culturomedia.com. And we will definitely take you up on that offer. So so that's what's going on over here.
Before I forget, last time I didn't put it on the checklist, but I was a little curious. Last time we talked, you hadn't gotten your M1 iPad Pro. So now that it's many months later, how are you liking it?
It is my go-to. It has been since I got it. It is my go-to device for working on most things, because it's a 5G capable device. And it's with the trackpad. I got the Apple keyboard case and trackpad, and with the trackpad and everything, I mean, it is essentially, really, there's still only 2 things I can't really do to my satisfaction on there, and that's video and podcast editing. Now, there are video and podcast editing apps on there, and I have them. I'm just not as fast, and I don't have enough time to sit and learn something new like that and still stay on schedule. You know what I mean? That'll change come the new year, but and if that's the case, I might do it. Although I know you'll make fun of me, Richie, but that new That new M1 Max Pro, MacBook Pro is pretty
Oh,
sexy. It'll be the last
your
laptop I
next
ever
last
buy.
one. I mean, it is. I mean, it's like, how many years have people been
That's right.
asking for all those ports to come back? You know.
Uh,
I mean, how many people like?
yeah,
I mean, I know you
yeah, I
had
hear
like
you.
the double like USB-C things. You know, that double USB-C dongle that kept falling out. And I
Yeah,
feel like everyone had that. And it's like, oh my god. Like, oh, thank God.
yeah. I have I have literally got 4 things plugged into all 4 of my USB-C ports right now. I've got my microphone, this GoPro
Mm.
camera I'm using as a webcam, and the plug-in for my light, and then power. 4 things plugged into all 4
Oh my
ports.
god, that's like me when I get to the hotel.
Yeah,
Like, I used to I've got a couple of laptops I bring with me, but the last time I was just too lazy to pull out my big Lenovo. And so I just like
yeah,
used my USB-C dongle and just plugged everything in. It's like, thank God.
yeah.
Yeah. Also,
Nice,
I mean,
nice.
people I gotta admit, like, if I remember when people used to make fun of Apples for being underpowered and overpriced, and now I feel like it's now the opposite.
Well, they're still pretty expensive, but the power I
Yeah.
think has come up
Yeah.
to the price. You know what I mean? So it's but I don't know if I've ever heard I mean, even yeah, back when laptops, Apple computers were, $5, 6, $7,000, they were still, aside from
Yeah.
something you'd build yourself, as far as off the shelf computers go, they were still some of the
Yeah.
most powerful computers that you could possibly buy. That's why they're commonly used, and everybody knows this. For the last 30 years, they've been used for like video production, like
Yeah.
professional video production,
Yeah.
photograph manipulation, all the resource intensive stuff. People have always used those because they've always had the power, but maybe they didn't have the power to justify a
Oh.
$10,000 price tag. But
You know what else I found
you
out,
know,
by the way? That because someone was showing me, like,
mm,
I was staying right next to a Starbucks, the only Starbucks in South Lake Tahoe that's open before 6. And so they were like, yeah, I just order through
yeah,
my Starbucks app, and then, as I'm heading out of town to the meeting spot that we go meet at, I just like to go pick it
hmm,
up. So I go to the Google Play
yeah,
Store and immediately start looking for the Starbucks app and find that there is no Android Starbucks app. Yeah, I mean, I looked
really.
everywhere. I tried every search permutation
They
I can think of, and nothing for this country. Like, there's stuff, but it's like not for this country, if that makes any sense.
That is it. I had no idea
Yeah,
Android was excluded from that because I've been using the Starbucks app for probably
yeah. Although
7, 8 years now. I mean,
I
it's
will
been
admit though,
a long
if you
time.
go straight to their website and like know the store you're looking for in the area. Thankfully, South Lake Tahoe, there aren't a
Yeah.
lot of Starbucks. But yeah, you can always order it that way, even though it's very,
Oh, I didn't know
yeah.
you could order online.
Well,
That's
I
pretty
was
cool.
desperate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's handy. Yeah. I mean, ordering ahead has saved us so many times because you never know if you know where you're going and you really want
Yeah.
something and you're in a hurry. You order it ahead when you're like 10 minutes out, and you get there and there's 15 people in the drive-through. You can just park your car, run inside, and drink sitting there waiting for you. And I'm like, you suckers, why would you ever sit in the drive-through that long?
Yeah.
The only time I've sat in the drive-through since then is if we just like on a whim went in. But even then, they don't,
Yeah.
the way the mobile ordering works. I don't know, this isn't a Starbucks podcast, but the way the
Yeah.
mobile ordering works is the minute you place your order, you get in front of
Yeah.
anyone who hasn't placed their order. So anyone who's standing in line, who is in their
Yeah.
car in the drive-through, and it still behooves you to just do your
Yeah.
order and run inside and pick it up. It's I don't know why more people don't do it, because you really
Oh
do
my
jump
God.
the line, just
Well,
like
it's
they
kind of
say,
like
and it's crazy.
I forget if I mentioned this during our last live stream, but let's see, No Reservations is currently streaming 24 hours a day on Twitch. And I tell people this, like, in some of my older neighbors, and they're like, I don't want to bother with Twitch. And I'm like, but it's free. It's free, and it's just like there, and like, I can cast it to my TV and I, just play it. But it's kind of like TikTok,
Yeah,
because I was thinking the other day, because
yeah,
obviously a lot of people are still against TikTok because they don't quite understand it. But I was thinking, I've got all this random video footage that's like not long enough to put anywhere else. It's like 15 to 20 seconds, and I know that someone I knew from field school like just switched to TikTok from oh god, what were they doing? They were doing Instagram stories or something, or Instagram live streams. And now
Uh,
suddenly, like, they're getting a lot more traction.
yeah.
You know, yeah. So I
Okay.
mean, look
Yeah.
out for a TikTok at some point, because like I'm
Nice.
not joking. Like like I keep recording all these little snippets of things. I'm like, this really doesn't go with anything, and I can't really put it out as like a 20-second video. Well, I mean I can, but not on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
and let's
Nice.
see,
Nice.
and let's jump around the checklist a bit, because I wanted to jump straight to consider learn something from the way biologists license and certify their people, because I have been talking to a lot of biologists, and one of the reasons they earn a lot more money is because they're doing, because I remember there was that controversy with the RPA, and like how they wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
certifications for like people without master's degrees, but that's the way biologists do it. And I mean,
Okay.
obviously they do it in a through, I feel like they do it through a more official organization. I should have asked around more, but basically, you can't you can't monitor for a certain animal, like desert tortoise, unless you've gone through the certification test and you have this much field experience, blah blah blah. And then once you get that, suddenly you're able to earn
Mm-hmm.
X number of dollars. And I feel like that's the sort of thing we ought to be doing. Although I feel like you've been trying to push for that since since your PCS days.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, we should be doing that because, I mean, any respectable, I don't know, organization or other business, they're all already doing this, right? Like everybody has something related to that. I mean, I always go back down to, I couldn't clip somebody's nails professionally and a license from the state, and yet I can go record thousands of years of prehistory basically any way that I want,
Of course not.
and nobody cares, right? So it doesn't make any sense to me. And we have all the bones and structure in place to put something like this in. I mean, we have RPA. People think it's mostly toothless, but we have that kind of a professional organization in states where the BLM is prominent. You need to submit your experience and your education and all the typical things you would do for licensing in order to get permitted to work in the state. Now, a lot of people can work under that permit without actually being permitted themselves. So it relies on the permit holder. You've been, as a field tech, you're probably not put on the permit, right? But as a crew chief or something like that, they might get you added to the permit. Or something like that. But the fact is, we have all the bones in place to put something like that together, and we just haven't formalized or legitimized it. And really, I think it would take like an independent organization to manage all these things across all these states, and that organization would have to gain some sort of legitimacy with employers in order to be valid, right? It's just like a union. You could start a union if you want, but unless employers are saying we'll only hire union people and we'll pay union wages and we'll do all these things, then it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't mean anything. There needs to be a majority that adopts whatever you put together.
It's interesting because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about unions, and I feel like we're finally, oh my god, I feel like, thank God, I feel like we're hitting like an actual generational shift, because I was talking to someone the other week, and the reason I was talking about them is because they are currently off this weekend because they are going to see like a concert. And I didn't tell them about my first job, because I was telling them about my second job, but it made me think of my first job, where my sister was visiting, and she, this had been planned for like a year in advance. So I asked the PI, hey, can I take this can I take like a week off, you know, from this project, to visit with my sister who I haven't seen in X number of months? And they said, sure. And then, the next time I called them up, it's like, all right, where'd I show up? And they're like, what are you talking about? You quit. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I asked for a week off. Like, there's no weeks off in archaeology. And yet now younger archaeologists are finally like, they're finally like doing what can only be called like self-care, or like, demanding their like rights. Because I mean, we've been there, like someone injures themselves, and your crew chief's like, well, can you just tough it out for the day? Injure yourself much more so that we can get like the
Yeah.
acreage. Or I once remember someone, like, someone's parents were like dying, and they're like, "Well, can you at least finish out the day before you leave?" You know, they're or or like, "Do you really have to go to the
Yeah.
funeral? Like,
Yeah.
they're still gonna be dead. Like, can't you just wait until the project is over?" And I was thinking about that because there's
Yeah.
all these articles about like, employers not be able to find like people, like they can't find people, and yet there was a dude who like basically went and applied to 60 jobs, and like out of those 60 jobs he got exactly one interview, and at the one interview he found out that the job ad was a total lie. Like they were advertising like the actual pay he was going to be offered was $2 less. It wasn't full time, and he wasn't going to get benefits. And then and this was the company that had been like on TV screaming about how they couldn't find people. And it's like, well, I feel like, we're at that generational shift where finally,
Yeah.
how can I put this? Finally, because there's always been like, and I know you guys have talked about this in the CRM podcast where companies and project managers and PIs basically treat field techs and field archaeologists like they're disposable. Like there's always going to be like 50,000 more. Like we're going to have so many more resumes. And yet I feel like this year companies have finally found
Yeah.
out that, and you've also talked about this on the CRM podcast where there's like not as many people going through the Anthro programs because they're finding out what it's like, what's actually like in the field through like live streams and podcasts you put out.
Hmm.
It's like, let's see, are companies finally going to start like, basically treating field archaeologists like a finite resource as opposed to just like, well, we'll just go to the local Home Depot and like get like 20 more field techs. Like I know we worked with that one person who like literally if he
Yeah.
could have, he literally would have like gone to Home Depot and just replaced the whole crew with people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very, you start talking to people that work in other states, other regions, different parts of the country, there is no
Yeah.
consistency with any of it, right? There's no standardization. The only real standard we've ever really, I guess, all adhered to is you must have experience and you must have a field school and you must have a degree. And those three things are basically like it's the only thing you see consistently throughout the whole field, people asking for. And why don't they, and I feel like they would ask for other certifications
Yeah.
if they existed. I feel like if the station did what the information was being put out and what you were learning and how it was being quantified, then that could end up being for resource. But the simple fact is we just don't have that. I mean, like RPA and ACRA and SAA and a few of the others, they do put out, you can get like continuing education credits and things like that for people that care about that thing for places where that matters. But, for I guess for the majority of people though, it's just not a factor. It's not a working without it, and as long as that's going to be the case, then nothing's going to change.
Well, hopefully we're at that point though, where, oh my God, finally this is just going to be a job. Like, not in a bad way, but in like, I feel like, because, I mean, I'm not going to like mention names or anything, but I feel like, I ran into like, I've been running lately, because like normally I like work with a bunch of young people, but every once in a while you run into like an old timer where like, like you're breaking science. Like if you don't like, practically like, destroy yourself to like survey, it's like, dude, it's just a job. Everything goes a job after a while. So anyway. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Sure.
So, there's one thing I wanted to mention because, I don't think you've talked about the CRM podcast or anything, but one thing that I keep running into is the fact that now there are, and that maybe people might be interested in learning about is prime and subcontractors. Like, what is that and why does it exist?
Mm-hmm. Well, it has to do with usually subcontractors are not individual people; they're companies, right? So when you have a prime contractor, you get a company that has the business size by volume that is able to bid on some of these larger, usually military or government projects, but not all the time. Sometimes they can just be really big projects, and they say, hey, we want people to prime us that are, 14, $15 million, $20 million a year in business, something like that, just to prove that you're established, you have the work, and you can be trusted to do this. But often that company doesn't actually do the work. They're just the ones administering the contract and finding the people to do the work. So then they find subcontractors to actually fulfill this. And a good example would be a project like a pipeline or something that crosses over 7 different states. Like, there's not a whole lot of companies that can handle that all by themselves, right? There's a few, but there's not a lot that can handle that by themselves. And so you prime on it, you take your 10-15% of everything right off the top, and that's where they make their money. And they hire out different companies to work different parts of the project. I remember, like the Ruby pipeline was like that. Everybody who's worked in the West has either heard of it or worked on it. The Rex East pipeline was one we worked on before the Ruby, out in Ohio, but that went from like the Rocky Mountains all the way through the East Coast. And we were just working on one portion in Ohio that some Ohio company had that part of. So they were a subcontractor to a larger prime that actually had and won the project. So a lot of times your subs have to be, if it's government, they have to be verified by the government as well. You can't just hire whoever you want as your prime, but sometimes you can. So, it just depends on.
Well, I just wanted to talk about this because, like, I've run the people like at the project manager level who have never heard of subcontractors. I'm like, wow, how long have you been working this business? Because, like, I mean, I feel like you've Dig Tech has been a subcontractor for a lot of projects. You can you can build an entire company around being a subcontractor, I assume.
Well, and that's been kind of my bread and butter because I've always been doing other things, and I don't have time to sit and write a report for 3 months, right? And just sit there and write. And honestly, if I'm being absolutely honest, it's super boring. Like, I just don't want to do it, right? I'm not interested in that. So I've done projects, and you've worked with me on projects in the past where all we were in charge of was the field work and the site records. And that's like doing the fun stuff and moving on to another project. Right now, don't get me wrong, I want to see the final report. I want to know that what we did, I want to know what impact it had on the archaeology. I want to know what we learned, what we added to knowledge, what we, that's the whole point of being out there. But I don't necessarily want to do it. I want to contribute to it, but I don't really want to do it. And absolutely, and I feel like there's a number of areas where subcontractors, so field work is a good one. Record preparation for those are not that are not doing digital recording. Site record preparation would be a good subcontracting opportunity, I think. Although
it is.
That's a touchy one because project managers and PIs, they want their hands in how those records are written, and they're going to have a lot of control over that. So might be a tough sell.
Yeah, kind of like I was going to say kind of like a certain company that you and I work for separately at different times here in Reno. One of the ones you were fired from. There's like a certain person there who insisted that he was the end of the line for like all field work, like all writing.
Yeah. Hey, I was laid off from that company. I wasn't fired from that.
Oh wait, you were? Oh, all right.
But technically. But no, anyway, it's I think it's there to be had, but you got to get with the right companies, right? You're not gonna end up being a subcontractor for a portion of business for a smaller company or a smaller.
That's true.
They don't really need it, and they want more control over it. Decent sized departments, but a lot of work. And if you come with good credentials, then if you own your own company, you might be able to get that work subbed out to you. But you got to be able to prove you can do the work. And the payout's probably going to be higher than normal than you're used to, but the consequences are also pretty high as well
really?
If you screw it up. So, because you're not just wrecking your own reputation if you screw a project up and you're the only one in charge of it. If you screw up a project where you're only in charge of a portion of it, and the contractor can really sue you for stuff. And if you don't have insurance, then you're done. But also, it can get out that you did crappy work. big companies, they all talk to each other, and you know, it would pretty quickly damage your
Interesting.
reputation. So,
Huh, because, I've worked for you,
yeah,
obviously, and then the company I'm currently working for, like, all they do is subcontracting. I don't think they've ever run their own contract ever. I might be wrong about that, so, just, like, don't take it,
yeah, yeah. So I've only run realistically smaller contracts as a sole person, in a lot of the big ones I've done have
Yeah.
been all sub single one of them. So I mean, technically, we were doing up in Nevada,
Yeah.
last, and the project was mine if I wanted it, because I know the person,
Yeah.
obviously, that's putting all these out, but I recognized that my company not have time, ability to finish the project, and I just didn't do it. So I found time. We're all
Yeah. Mm-mm.
by the client, but realistically, I'm a sub, and I'm doing a portion of the project, and then other companies a sub, they're doing a portion of the project, and the person who's basically in charge of the report, they're essentially a sub too. I don't know who the prime would be in this case, but she's basically dictating and calling the shots, and I would consider her the prime, and all of us working under her.
It's interesting because I feel like that's like the future of the way things are going to be done. Because like I was surprised to learn that one of that I'm not going to mention their name, but I was surprised to learn that one of the major companies out here in the West, like in California, the one out of Davis, like is basically doing a lot of subcontracting, which I would not have associated with them. And it seems like everyone is just subcontracting with each other, which I think is interesting. I mean, it's like I remember years ago, you had that idea that there'd be like a what you were thinking about, like a oh god, what was it? Kind of like a I wanted to say Uber, but more like a job search service, for field techs, where you'd vet them and then like, send them on to different companies.
Yeah. Oh, basically subbing field techs out to different companies. Yeah. And I still think that's a half decent idea. I mean, it falls apart when you get the contracts that don't allow subcontractors, right? They don't allow them too deep. So it's, but I think those are few and far between. And I think when it comes to a company just hiring field techs, that they could hire another company to essentially do the field work for them. Which
and
is
I've noticed that that's happening a lot now. Like, they're, with a lot of companies. Like, I mean, I've literally, the company I work for in California, literally they're about as busy as you can be. And I feel like I'm about as busy as I can be without like, while still getting like sleep.
Yeah, totally. Yep. It's a good thing to be in archaeology.
Alrighty, so that takes care of that.
Yeah.
Ha. All right, what else is there? Oh, we answered that. Haha. Interesting. So, there is one last topic I want to talk about, but it's kind of like I guess we kind of talked a lot during this hour. But like, has CRM finally turned the corner on technology? Like, can we finally say that we are beyond clipboards and paper forms?
Honestly, I think I'm coming to the point where I can say that a lot of the bigger companies, if you're looking at the percentage of work getting done, they all are either doing something digitally or they're looking more closely into doing something like that, right? I don't think they've quite nailed it, and a lot of them are still using just like Google Docs and stuff, but it's still better than paper. But I think that a lot of the bigger corporations, they know it. Now the problem is the bigger ones think they can come up with a solution in-house, which is really where it falls down, because it's just too complicated, right? There's too much to keep track of. There's too much to do. There's too many operating systems to keep a hold of. It's just not feasible to think that you could manage that kind of thing long term in-house. And so I think we're well, yeah, sure. Yeah. But you'd have to buy like a software development company,
who did that.
right? In order to do that. Well, yeah, I know. That's true. That is a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Ask a question. I can't read it. It's so tiny. Oh, wait. Chuck Hutchinson says, when I worked at the Chris processing reports, we all knew exactly who the known offenders were. Oh, interesting. I wonder if that's the is that the California? Um,
Yeah, it's California Historic Resource Information System. It's basically an information center, but not. I don't think it's one of the information centers. It sounds like it's one of more of the statewide ones, possibly. But yeah,
oh, by the way, you know what I just learned?
I'm
Yeah.
sure going to reputation. Well, I've talked to like the state archaeologist for the BLM in Nevada. I talked to presidents of the RPA in the past, and a lot of things where you think these companies are doing something disreputable, or they're doing something not quite up to snuff, or something like that. There's very little oversight to all that. I mean, yeah, they knew who the known offenders were, but what were the repercussions for turning in poor quality site forms? Was there anything was there any teeth to going back to them and saying, hey, you need to do this better? Like, what are the repercussions? And we need more repercussions is what we need. We need people to lose permits, to lose business licenses, to get on lists where they can't work and do different things in order to, I guess treat this whole science a little better.
I remember one of the people you and I worked for at the same time, at the company, like would use the agency as his editor, even though we had an editor on staff.
Yeah.
just to save money.
I mean, that's common, right? Just turn it in and then address the comments. You make a lot of work for the agency, but some people think that, well, that's what they're there for. Why am I going to waste my time on it when they're going to tear it apart anyway? I'm just going to turn it in to whatever level of completion I think it's at, and then address the comments. So yeah.
Let's let's see. It's 6 o'clock, so let's so before we run out of time, I was curious, like with all the because I feel like we haven't done a live stream forever, and I know that the Ford F-150 and the Rivian weren't out the last time we were talking about live streams. I was curious, like which electric truck are you gonna get if you are gonna get one for field work?
Still a good question. And the F-150 is still not out yet, by the way. I don't think it comes out till next year. And the Rivian, I'm not sure that's out either. The only person that has one is Jeff Bezos. You see those Blue Origin landings, and they show up in like 4 Rivians out in the field there, and it's crazy. But I don't think they're shipping until January.
Not that far away.
It's not that far away, but I've got other concerns, right? Because right now, I actually emailed Rivian and got a response. And I know of a few other electric vehicles that are in the same boat here, just because it's published and people know about it. But my other concern with getting one of these things, and not just using it for field work, like next year, $6,000 on renting a Ford F-150 for 2 months. I'd rather just buy one and then sell it or something like that. But the thing is, we also still live in an RV, and we would like to be able to flat tow that vehicle, because taking a dolly around or a flatbed, it's like, where are you going to put that thing when you get to an RV park, or when you're out boondocking or doing something like that? So flat towing your vehicle is the way to go. But almost none of these pure electric vehicles are flat towable, and it's not that they're not necessarily flat towable. It's not published that they are flat towable, right? It's not something that they've really thought about. But Rivian specifically told me that they're not flat towable. they're like, if you need to tow this behind an RV, you're going to do it with a flatbed. Like, you're going to need a trailer. They specifically said that.
That is kind of impressive that they emailed you back.
So, yeah, totally. I just went to the website and hit like the contact form, and it's like, I got a question, and I got an answer in like 2 days. So.
Oh, by the way, every time I see a Blue Origin, I just think, wow, that's powered on like the tears and dreams of like all the Amazon employees.
I know, right? You can see it that way, or I can think every time I shop at Whole Foods like we did today, or buy something from Amazon, I'm furthering spaceflight. That's
you know what I just learned? I don't know if people have noticed, but almost every Whole Foods you go to is like an Amazon it has Amazon delivery lockers. So if like you're on the road and you're near a Whole Foods, just like, instead of having it sent to your hotel, it's a lot safer to have it sent to those Amazon lockers.
Well, yeah, and you can order if you've got Prime. You can order groceries, and they will deliver to you if you're near. If
Yeah.
you're near enough to that Whole Foods to use the locker, they'll either deliver groceries to you if you're
Yeah.
within their delivery circle, and there's no charge for that, or you can have them shop for all your groceries, and you just go pick them up, like they're in
Yeah.
a bag up front waiting for you. We saw that. We
Yeah.
saw that at this one in Austin, and yeah, if you want to save time,
Oh
you
my
know,
god, that's
get
like
it done.
that'd actually
So,
be a potentially good video, for RVers and for
mhm.
people in the field, like field
Yeah,
archaeologists too. Unless you're working in Austin, Nevada.
yeah. Well, that's and that's one of the reasons we're restructuring our videos, because some of ours have some real RV stuff in them, about the RV and things like that, and a lot of them are just what we were doing that week, or travel log
Yeah.
basically. And we want to kind of have the best of both worlds, so we want to start with here's what we're doing,
Yeah.
and here's where we're at, and here's our experience here, maybe a park review, or something like that, but then have different segments about relating directly to like RV life, and we've already got a whole list of topics to talk about. But these would be the hard thing about it is these would be like short 2 to 5 minute long segments. But if you put those out as separate videos, I mean, you can do that, but I'm just like, man, that is a lot of work just to put out a 2 minute or 5 minute video. I'd rather put out a longer video and then have that segment inside of it, and we might eventually release those separately, just in case, so people don't have to watch 45 minutes before they get to the part they're looking for. But YouTube also makes it pretty easy to jump to sections of the video if you just do your notes right.
Oh.
So,
by the way, for
there's that
people
too.
who are looking for video editing software, DaVinci just added the ability to automatically add chapter markers to your video. So when it exports, it literally uploads it to YouTube, and those little chapter markers are already on there. And for people who don't realize it, DaVinci Resolve is free, or it can be free. There's a paid version, but you don't need to use the paid version. Like, you get almost everything with the free one.
Nice.
And it's what I use. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Oh, and let's see. Chuck says,
Cool.
he might be a few minutes behind, but let's see. I'll read his latest comment. I kicked back reports and said, please edit. Yeah. Thank God.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what else you know what I learned recently?
That's
Because I
great.
know that on DevChris, you can go online and you can look at like reports, right? Am I wrong about that?
That's one of the things you could get from there.
I learned
typically.
that California information centers, you actually have to go to them to like get like site records. And I'm like, that is like, for such a high tech state, that is incredibly archaic, and like, wow.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, at some of them you can just pay more money and have them do the search for you and send you the results.
But it's not the same
a lot
thing
more
as
money.
like,
even when you, but even when you go there, you still have to pay them for the search, right? You pay them for copies, you pay them for, anything you have to scan, whatever the case may be. But it's, it's a lot more expensive if you have them do it.
It's just amazing they don't have it like on a database.
Well,
they do.
I mean, I think they do internally. They just want you to come there and do it, or they want you to pay for them to do it. I mean, that's just a business model they've come up with. So I don't think anybody likes it too much. And it really shut archaeology down in the state when COVID hit, because nobody could go to the information centers and do anything, so it was a real bind. So
interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool. Yeah. So is there anything interesting coming up on the APN anytime soon?
Yeah, the archaeology show, we released an episode today that was all Viking themed news articles, so that was kind of fun.
Interesting.
That was one of the cool things is that spawned those other articles, is there was finally some really cool dating techniques that were used to date that well-known Viking settlement up in Newfoundland, but nobody really had concrete evidence as to when it really dated to, and now we do. And it's concretely dated to 1021 AD, and it's like absolute. So that's really neat. And I don't know, we've just got a lot of different things coming up. I can't even think of anything in particular, but we're just continuing to crank out podcasts.
Oh,
So
and
keep
although I
keep an eye
haven't
out.
been checking my email lately, have the should they still be signing up for the newsletter? Like, has that been going out regularly?
Put it out every Friday, and occasionally I've got some extra details in there. But if you want to see what episodes did come out in the past week, that's
Cool.
usually what's in the newsletter. So you can see the paragraph about the show notes, and then a link to the podcast on the APN right in the newsletter. And also, I usually include 3 samples of something from our T Public store, and I go to Instagram and I find some cool companies or people posting stuff about archaeology, and I always have a shot of one of theirs linked to their own Instagram profiles at the top and the newsletter. So yeah,
cool.
that's fun to do. Yeah. Cool. So
all right.
What's next coming out for you?
Oh my god. Well, if I can ever get back on the editing train, like, people like, when I was not doing monitoring, I used to think it was just a lot of sitting around, but you realize there's a lot of paperwork. Like, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like, some of it would be faster if instead of like having to fill out PDFs, I could just like, do something like WildNote or something, but whatever, it's like, they're paying me, so I'll do it however they want. But yeah, so, oh my God, it's like crazy, but I am working on stuff, and there's a lot of stuff sitting on my hard drive. So just keep looking out. Like, things are definitely going to start going up soon again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like, I'm just like you mentioned, I'm just steadily chipping away. Just like there's just a lot of stuff to chip away at.
Yeah. I hear that, man. I hear that. So.
Interesting. What about your YouTube channel?
Like I said, we put something up last week, put something up today, and I think we've got a plan now, a pretty solid plan. It hasn't been for lack of content or ability or will, but now we have a solid plan. I think we're going to get a little more regular at it. There might be some hiccup in the next week or two, just because we've got a long drive weekend, and if I don't get this next one done before Saturday, I'm probably not going to put it out till like Monday, because we've just got too much driving to do Saturday and Sunday.
Ooh, where are you headed to?
Our next stop on the way to North Carolina is in Florida, Pensacola, Florida. So we've got a state park or something right on the beach, which is going to be kind of cool. So that'll be fun. And then we're there for a week, and then we head up to Charlotte for until the beginning of January.
Oh, and before I forget, people might not realize it because, if they haven't been watching a lot lately, but I am still looking at, RVs and campers and such. And I'm finally starting to see the people who have, who thought it would be cool to buy an RV or whatever in 2020, and then they found they didn't like it. And now suddenly you're just seeing like RVs like hardly used, like, like 500 miles, stuff like that. I'm like, ha.
Yep.
So, so for people who are looking out, who are want to try the van life, start looking out for stuff.
Yeah, we knew that would happen.
Yeah.
So
also, I mean, not to keep going and going, but I am shocked at the number of Class B RVs, which, and for people who don't know what those are, that's the official classification for those Sprinter vans and those but not like, I am shocked at how popular they are, depending on where you go. Like in South Lake Tahoe, they were literally all over the place.
Well, like the Winnebago version and a few others. I mean, they're just really well put together, and it's the kind of thing that people they don't have to get a special license to drive. They're not afraid to drive it. I mean, a lot of those have like a big slide that comes out on the whole side, and they're well appointed too. I mean, you're going to pay $70,000-$80,000 for one of those brand new, but you're going to have top of the line stuff inside of it.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be well put together, and it's just more people's speed. So I'm not too surprised. We were just in an RV lot today.
Oh, you were?
On the way home, we like stopping through and just browsing. Oh. And it's for an upcoming segment on one of our longer form videos.
Yeah.
But we stopped through and looked, and they had a ton of Sprinter vans there, like Sprinter van style ones there. And it was just a bunch of them, and they're just really neat. So, and even Airstream's coming out with not the van style, but their bumper pole trailers. I mean, they're like ridiculously expensive, but the the smaller versions like the Nest and some of the others that are just these smaller tow behinds that many vehicle types can tow behind.
Yeah.
And they're well put together, and
Although the base
and
camp
well appointed.
16 is like $50,000.
I know they're not cheap, but that's my point is if you pay $15,000 for a 23-foot, Forest River travel trailer that's 4 or 5 years old, that thing's made of paper. I mean,
That's
it's literally made of paper, right?
That's true.
So it's intended for the weekend warriors and things like that. But if you want to put a little bit more strain on it, I mean, you're better off paying more money for something that's put together well. Otherwise, learn how to work on stuff and patch holes and put things back together, because it's going to shake itself apart.
Oh, and before I
So,
forget, people might not realize it, but you can get a 30-year loan on these RVs, and people are like, "Oh my God, why would I get a 30-year loan?" Well, it's like, you're not really going to have it for the whole 30 years. At least I would hope not.
We've got a 20.
Yeah.
We've got a 20, and I mean, I'm sitting in a 36-foot Class A, and our payment's $600 a month.
Yeah.
We put 10 down on it, but
Ooh.
it's definitely affordable. And you're, like you said, I'm not going to pay the full loan amount of this, which ends up being like $140,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to pay that, because I'm going to get rid of it well before that happens.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely true.
And if you're a traveling field archaeologist and you don't necessarily have a house, and you basically work out of your vehicle as an office, like even a $150,000 Winnebago, gotta forget the name of it, but they've got an off-road version, a 4x4 that's like $150K. But that still would make sense if you're if you're basically living out of it and using it as an office.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
totally.
my apartment, people keep telling me my apartment is super cheap, especially my coworkers in California, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm paying a lot of money. I mean, literally,
this is Reno.
like literally when I first got the Reno, what I'm paying right now is more than some people I know are paying in a house payment right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yep. So.
All right. Cool.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Well, thanks, and hopefully we can
get back on.
I don't know
Christmas.
About next weekend, but I don't know about next weekend, but when we get to Charlotte, we'll be a little bit more regular with no travel for a couple months, or at least a month and a half. So hopefully we can keep these going.
Yeah, and my hotspot data resets on the 7th, so that's like 2 weeks from now, or a week from now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
nice.
It's like I'm seriously considering getting a separate hotspot now.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. We'll see everybody later.
Yeah.